Welcome to my tutorial for Streets of Rage 4, and this is going to be on Mania Plus mode using Streets of Rage 4 Shiva. So yeah, this is the hardest difficulty currently available. This was added with the new DLC, which was definitely a nice addition to the game. The main addition being the survival mode, which is fucking awesome. Real addictive mode. I've been on that shit a lot, and really been enjoying that. I started off learning Shiva basically by playing the survival mode. That's what kind of got me into the game again. I beat Streets of Rage 4 when it initially came out, and I just got back into it with the new DLC. So I started messing around with survival. I instantly took a liking to Shiva, the playstyle. So I kind of got familiar with him through that. I did complete the tutorial for Shiva's combos and everything like that, but I don't use a lot of those air jungle, the more advanced combos and stuff. I don't end up using a lot of that shit. It's not really the way I play a lot of games. So I do kind of stick to more basic shit. I just rely more on, good spacing, good reactions, things like that I've learned from other beat-em-ups and other games. So, currently, my best run with Shiva was a level 45 in the survival mode, which was last week's survival mode as of the date of this posting. And I also went through boss rush mode, which was very, very easy with Shiva, especially after doing survival. So that was an easy kill. And then I completed the arcade mode on regular Mania, which was actually pretty easy with Shiva by the time I did it, because I was, I had already done survival and probably had gotten to like maybe level 37 in survival, which is, not pushing it quite as far as the 45 run, but, similar. So I had a, pretty good understanding, though a lot of stuff doesn't apply from survival to the story mode, because in survival you can pick up buffs. After each stage you pick up all these buffs to make your character stronger and have, you can stun multiple enemies with one attack and all this kind of shit. So it's very different in some ways, but it was enough for me to be familiar enough with Shiva to have a good, foundation, be able to go through Mania, which I was able to do arcade mode on Mania on my first try, which is a 1cc mode, meaning there's no continues on that mode. So you start with, I think, 2 lives on Mania arcade mode, and you just have to survive the entire game. But, you can live off of 1-up, so you can still die several times. I think I died 3 times, something like that. I didn't have a lot of deaths. So that kind of, prepared me for everything. And I did Mania Plus prior to doing the 1cc run on Mania. I did the regular story mode playthrough. Lets you start on the last stage you got to. So on Mania Plus, I was able to always start on the stage I got to. But now one big thing about Mania Plus mode is that even in arcade mode, the 1cc mode, you always start with 0 lives in Mania Plus. So it means that you have to be good enough to beat each stage with 0 lives. 0 starting lives. You can earn 1-ups, and you do get them more frequently than you do in arcade mode, since the score requirement is not as high. In arcade mode, you need to get 28,000 points to get your next 1-up, which takes a while. When you're playing in regular story mode, the score requirement is much lower to get a 1-up. It might be something like 5,000 or something like that. So you'll get 1-ups more frequently. You can survive easily on them. You see it says extra life in 3,000. So, that does make a difference. It makes arcade mode more survivable overall. But it is still very hard starting with 0 lives on Mania Plus, because the enemies are much faster and more aggressive than even on regular Mania. And there's a lot more numerous enemies on Mania Plus than there is in regular Mania. And regular Mania it was the hardest mode of the game, maybe a year ago when the game came out. So it's not easy. But, getting pretty good with Shiva from the survival mode was a good preparation for me. And then I was really getting into the game, really fucking enjoying it. And I just found out the game had so much replayability with all these different modes to fuck around with the new character that I was enjoying learning. But like I said, I don't get super advanced or anything like that. So it'll be an approachable play style for a lot of players. You'll just have to get good at crowd control, basically. But you don't have to worry about learning any advanced juggle combos or anything like that. I'm also considering doing a survival tutorial, but I wanted to at least exceed level 50 which is about 5 levels from my best. I thought that would be like at least a good minimum before I make a tutorial. Because when I make tutorials, most of the time what I do is I show the entire run. Now, with survival, I really don't need to do that. It's going to be overkill to talk for like an hour and a half. Because, for one, all my strategies have pretty much already been covered by other players that have even gotten farther than me. So there may not be a big reason for me to make a tutorial. I may just kind of do it just more to showcase what I did and for entertainment. And, of course, I'll give my input because there will be subtle nuances and things that I don't do that other players do. There are some differences in my playstyle, but I think when you get to a high level with survival, a lot of players end up playing the same because there's just certain things that are so fucking effective. So, you're going to want to spam the most effective maneuvers. But I'll go more into detail that and maybe in a separate video if I get farther in survival. I've been playing it pretty regularly. So, yeah, I'm basically going to be trying to cover some strategies I used, as I went through to survive certain scenarios. The final stage is really the hardest stage that gave me the most trouble. So, I'll try to make this as entertaining as I can, given I'm going to have to stretch out a small amount of information. So yeah, great thing about Shiva is I recommend using his flying kick blitz, which if you haven't unlocked it, just play survival for a little while, and it doesn't take too long to unlock all of Shiva's moves. I recommend unlocking all of them because his alternative star move is really good as well. The spirit dance really clears the screen out, and I found it better than the regular star move that he has. And your star moves are activated by pressing B and Y at the same time, I believe. But those are good in an emergency. And remember, your stars don't carry over and your lives don't carry over to the next stage in story mode. It's not like arcade mode where you can carry over whatever you earned. So, in this mode, don't be afraid to cash in shit. You only need to budget your lives and your stars for the stage, and you don't have to worry about trying to save things for the next stage. If you want to do that, then there's arcade mode. But for the story mode, it's not a 1cc mode, so you don't have to worry about that. Also, you can choose to use assist, but I'm showing the mode beaten without any assist, which the assist will give you extra lives and things, which is a good way to practice this stage, I think. Or if you just don't care, you can use the assist. The first time I beat regular Mania a year ago or whatever, I used assist, and it felt cheap. But, I did still beat it on Mania, but it did feel pretty cheap. It was easy when I did that. So, you do have the ability to do that, but this tutorial is showing how I beat it without any assists. Now, when I first beat the final stage on Mania Plus, that was the only time I used an assist in this playthrough. And, I wasn't happy with using the lowest assist, which only gave me like 1 extra life, but I still felt like it was cheap. And I knew I could do it without the assist. So I got good practice by using the assist initially. It was a good way to practice. But then I wanted to do better and not lose that extra life. So I'm going to show that. So really with Shiva, his flying kick blitz, which is forward, and strike, whatever you have strike mapped to, that flying kick is great because it does tons of hits on the enemies and it has a lot of invincibility frames. So you can actually activate it when you're about to get shot or hit by something, and it will be able to dodge most moves. So you can utilize that. Of course, if you get thrown, if you hold like up and I think hit A at the right time, you can not take damage from throws. I usually fuck it up, but it is possible to recover from those. The first boss is very easy. Just spam the flying kick blitz, which is going to be what I'm mostly doing with Shiva, really. And I got an S ranking, I believe, on 2 of the stages, but that was just accidental. I wasn't trying to do bad or anything, but I was just trying to beat the mode. So, whatever rankings I got or what I got, and that was it. I didn't go back and try to redo anything for ranks. But I did use Shiva throughout the entire run. I think I experimented with a few of the other characters, but for my successful attempts on each stage, I ended up using the Streets of Rage 4 Shiva, which I really fucking love. Great character. So yeah, the flying blitz is what you're going to see me mostly spamming with some crowd control, with the regular hits, back attacks, the rare heavy attack, which is when you hold strike and then release it after a few seconds, which I don't use too often. I am starting to use it more now as I'm getting more acclimated with the higher survival ranks. When I did hit 37, I think it was like world rank 18 or something like that, which was cool. It was just for fun. Initially, the runs didn't even post online for whatever reason. But that one did. Then my 42 didn't post. But then, I think the 42 did, but my 45 didn't post online. But not really that concerned with that. It's just kind of fun to see where it lands on the rankings, but it's more of a fun thing. I'm mainly, I play games for that personal satisfaction of beating my own records, pretty much. I'm not really a competitive. I don't really compete against other people. I will do it for fun on a leaderboard, but I'm not hardcore into that. I am hardcore into meeting my own challenges, such as if I want to beat an extreme mode in a game, or if I want to, do something particularly extreme in a game. But it's mostly just personal type of shit that I like doing for that, satisfaction of completing a goal, an extreme goal. So yeah, you'll see how dense Mania Plus gets even on these early levels. See how many fucking guys there is here. Now these guys are annoying because they'll rush in and grab you. Now the biggest thing with Mania Plus, a big thing you want to focus on is trying to keep your combos pretty high. And remember that you only cash in the points from your high combos if you let the combo time out on its own. So, when you're doing all these combos, if you feel like an enemy is going to break your combo and you're not going to be able to keep it up, then, maybe just move away from the enemies for a moment and let the combo just wear off so that you can claim the points for it. That's the only way you can claim the points. Kind of like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater where, you do combos and stuff, but if you get knocked over or fall or whatever, you break the whole combo. So it's a risk-reward mechanic, basically. And I didn't know that. I don't think I learned that until... I don't even think I knew that through this whole Mania Plus playthrough. I don't think it dawned on me. I didn't think about it too much. But I knew that, I saw that combos were giving me a lot of points at certain... at certain times, but I didn't realize it was because the combo was wearing off on its own and giving me the score. I thought maybe it was good to combo all the time and just try to keep going for combos, but that's not really the case because then you lose your... If you get too aggressive with trying to combo and you're not able to keep up the combo, like say you get hit by that guy with the nightstick, then it's over. But you're going to see me playing much, much better as time goes on. Remember, this was my early time with Mania Plus on the first earlier stages, and I'm now on survival. I played a lot of survival after this and gotten a lot better. But these strategies will be fine. I mean, they worked for Mania Plus on story mode. Starting with 0 lives. Now, the big thing I was trying to say about Mania Plus, the biggest thing about Mania Plus for me, one of the biggest things is you start with 0 lives, so you want to be pretty aggressive with comboing early on in the stage. Because you want to at least earn one extra one up to keep you alive. It's an insurance policy so that you don't only have 0 lives. You want to try to get that first life early on because it'll allow you to get farther into the stage if you do happen to die early on. If you don't have that, then it's very easy to die before you even get your first one up, which happened to me on some of the harder stages. So just keep that in mind. Try to keep that combo count up and try to, as a result, get more points early on. And that's going to help you a lot to survive Mania Plus. Always use weapons. Shiva can't pick up weapons, but he can, by approaching the weapon and trying to pick it up, he will throw the weapon in that direction. So utilize that. You can also juggle the weapon in the air and get multiple hits on the enemy in air by spamming the projectile, the weapon pickup button, B. So utilize that. You can beat the shit out of the enemies with the weapons if you want to. Shield guys, of course, it's good if you do a few hits and then follow it up with the flying kick blitz. And do that again, and you usually take out the shield in 2 flying kicks, and then you can just take them out normally. But see how I'm using the weapons here? They do a lot of damage, so weapons are very good to use. And you see by this point I already have 2 lives because I've been pretty aggressive with my combos, and obviously I've gotten hit out of a lot of my combos, so it hasn't been perfect by any means. But if you're aggressive with comboing, you'll probably end up earning a lot of lives in the process, even if you're not trying to let your combos end naturally and time out, because I wasn't even doing that. I was just trying to combo whenever I could. I was trying to hit enemies as much as possible and keep the combo count up is what I was trying to do. But I wasn't thinking about, I should let it time out so I can claim the points. I didn't even think about that. And I found out in this mode most of the time I had more lives than I needed. A lot of times I ended stages with 2 or 3 lives left over. So, aside from like the final stage, I think that was getting a little ridiculous. That gets dense as fuck. That's a tough stage. That's a real difficulty spike, I thought. But now some of this, obviously, I haven't played this in a little while. I think I played it last month, but so it's not super, super clear as far as every little detail of each stage. I mean, even right after I beat it, I didn't remember everything perfectly. I wouldn't have remembered every little detail. But I recommend fighting these guys for points because they're easy. Of course, you can just go in the door and leave these guys and not deal with them. And you like that. But I would recommend actually fighting them and getting some extra points if you think you're going to need it. If you could maybe earn an extra life to fight the boss with, maybe, depending how many more points you need to get an extra life. It really depends. But if you're close to getting a 1-up, farm those guys for points. Just kill them. They're really easy. Now, I like to get this commissioner boss in the corner and just spam the flying kick, and I do tons of damage that way because the invincible frames are great. Now, here I used my... now at this point I wasn't using the Spirit Dance special because I didn't realize that was the better overall special. So when I used my star special, it was the other star special that he has, which was okay, I guess. It's a good way to get guys off your ass, and it does some damage. I don't remember it doing as much damage as the Spirit Dance, though. So I would say get that if you can. You don't need it right away. You're probably going to want it later on, though, for the harder levels. I found these first few levels very easy as I got an S ranking in this and another pretty early level. Or maybe the other level I got the S ranking in, I don't know if it was an early stage, but I know that the early stages mostly didn't give me much trouble at all. I was kind of blazing through these stages pretty easily. Now, if you want, you can focus on just the Commissioner and take him out. If you take out the Commissioner, everyone else dies. You don't have to finish off the remaining Scragglers. But I wasn't really being strategic with a lot of these boss fights as far as trying to dodge their attacks. I pretty much, whenever I could, would try to do my flying kicks, and I would just keep spamming flying kick. And I would use the invincibility frames from the flying kick as a gambling type of thing where, maybe I won't get hit. And I was being real reckless because I didn't really need to try to learn how to dodge their moves. I mean, as long as I kept doing flying kick, I could survive. So here I'm being aggressive with the specials to try to finish him off so I don't lose my life here. But it wouldn't have mattered if I died anyway. I had like 2 or 3 more lives left, so I think 0 might count. So I had at least 2 or 3 lives left, so it didn't matter. Because remember, I wasn't even going for this S ranking. I was just going for completion of Mania Plus on story mode. So, okay, yeah, this one was an A ranking, I guess. But there are a few S rankings that sneak in there. Oh, this was stage 2, right? Yeah, I forgot that this was the second stage. The first stage I got the S ranking on. I got mostly A's, whatever the fuck that means. I don't even know how the ranking is calculated or anything. I didn't look any of that up. So you see I switched up my loadout going into this third stage. I now have Spirit Fist as my star move. And I wasn't paying attention to tell you if I switched anything else up, but I can tell you that what I like to currently use, and I know it would work good on this mode, even if I'm not showing some of the moves here. Spirit Fist I like as the star move, as I said. There's also Spirit Palm as the special. That's my favorite special move to use now. I don't know if I was using that in this video, but it ended up being my favorite because you can pull a lot of bullshit by spamming it. Especially in survival mode. You can actually regenerate tons of health in survival. Now, that's not the case. In regular story mode, it actually drains a lot of your health if you abuse it. So, it's not quite the case in story mode. I mean, you will get some health back because when you do damage, you can regenerate some of the health that you lose from using specials. But, if you spam it, you're most likely going to end up draining all your health and dying. But you may want to do that in an emergency if you want to sacrifice health to try to survive to the next healing item pickup. Of course, in survival mode, you don't worry about healing item pickups because you would want the Bloodthirst perk, which will let you regenerate health by damaging enemies, and that's really the way to go with that. Fortunately, there's nothing like that in story mode. So you got to survive to the next health item. So, if you're about to die, you may want to use a star move or something like that. And if you know where the next healing item is going to be, then you may want to sacrifice a star to try to survive until that next turkey or something, so you can keep the run going. Of course, focus on comboing and earning those points whenever possible, and try to keep comboing, because that's what's going to keep you alive. I don't think I got my first life yet, so I'm just hanging on now, just trying to survive until I can get a turkey or get my first life from points. Now the apple gives you a little survivability, which is good. Always try to group guys and get them into corners too with the flying kick, and just keep spamming flying kick. See how I'm doing it in this corner here? Occasionally you're going to have to switch directions though as enemies approach you from the other side, and flying kick in the opposite direction, obviously. That's going to be a common way to deal with crowds. And I mean, honestly, nothing I do is really that advanced to beat Mania Plus. It's just that it's pacing. It's kind of like pacing yourself out. But see, for this part, this was really hard initially when I played it with Axel on regular Mania. With Shiva, it's pretty damn easy. Overall, even though I didn't do great here, if you keep flying kicking, you can really knock the enemies back and control them. And you can then flying kick behind you to finish off the guys behind you. I did use a star here because it was getting a little wild. I got overwhelmed. But you really don't have to. And you can gain another star pickup here, I believe, on the ground. You can't see them. So as you're walking over this corridor, keep hitting B, as you see me doing, so you pick up all the items, because there's some good items down there that are kind of obscured by the wall. So make sure you break everything and pick up everything. This is another very easy boss fight where you can spam your flying kick without much thought. Just keep spamming flying kick. And don't worry too much about the minions. Focus mostly on trying to get her, but if you can get her with the minions, that's also good. You can try to get a bonus by damaging her and the minions at the same time, obviously. Whenever you can get multiple enemies grouped, that's usually the best way to go in these games. Now, these guys will interrupt you a lot, so be aware of that. You got a bottle you can throw out. And there's some healing items. You can break the chair, and I believe you'll get a star, which is really good because that'll do a ton of damage if you use that. But you may not need it because this is a pretty easy fight. So try to keep the damage going with your flying kicks, and it's not a big deal if you take a few hits. Just be aggressive with doing flying kicks on her, and try to push her across the arena. You can get tons of flying kicks in if you use it from one edge of the arena to the other. You can kind of move her across using only flying kicks, which does tons of fucking damage, as you saw. And there's also an apple I could pick up if I wanted to, but didn't really need it. I think I'd just finish off with Spirit Dance, because I didn't really need to use it anymore. And you see I had about 3 lives remaining here as well. So this was another, this level was actually kind of challenging initially. The challenge of this level was getting past the fat guys in the beginning. That first wave of fat fire-spitting guys without losing a life, because, you have 0 lives until maybe after the fat guys. So that was the main challenge. This level was one of the harder ones initially. It's actually not an easy stage. The other 2 stages I thought were easy, at least for me they were. This stage kind of challenged me a little bit. This was kind of tough initially. I had to try this stage several times to beat it. It wasn't a first-time kill. So it can take some time, but the main thing is to try to survive until you can get that first one up. And by doing that, you'll be able to then you'll get some nice leverage to survive the rest of the stage by that point. Now this is another hard stage. This is another one of the harder stages, because there's a lot of pits and there's a lot of these annoying jump-kicking women that are super fucking annoying. So you're going to want to try to manage that the best you can. You can use the holes to try to get them in there and take them out fast, but it's not always easy to get them to cooperate. A lot of your attacks will knock them over the hole. So a lot of times, unless you know exactly what attack you're going to use to knock them back into the hole, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. So that's why I ended up, I would a lot of times end up getting, doing a flying kick and going into the hole myself. So I was kind of avoiding the holes when I did better on this stage. I just decided to fight them normally mostly. I mean, I used the pits a few times in the stage, but I wasn't finding it like super effective. Luckily, though, you don't lose a life for falling in a hole in this game. So you will lose a lot of health, though, so it's not worth doing. So here I wanted to survive because I was on 0 lives, so I said, fuck it, I'll just use my star and try to live a little longer. Because, see, if I can get to these healing items, then I can restore the run. So grab that turkey. It's a little hard to grab because the enemy's really mobbing that area, and you end up grabbing them accidentally instead of grabbing the turkey. So that's, or you get hit. It can be irritating to try to grab that turkey, but try to get in there fast and grab it if you need it. Now you have enough leverage to try to survive and get that first one up, which will buy you some time and allow you to possibly survive the stage, because you'll earn maybe another one up later. So it sets you up to beat the stage if you can get past this initial. The hardest part of this stage is this initial first part that you're seeing here, this whole first section, and everything up until you get that first one up. You see, I need about 3,000 points to get that one up now. So this part, it's very easy to grab these women and just throw them in the hole. You may have to punch them once to get the grab, but just get them in the hole if you can. One thing I also learned that I didn't really know at this point was that you can use your heavy attack, which by holding X for a few seconds and releasing, you'll do an axe kick type of move. You can use that to knock enemies in the pit if they're on the edge of the pit as well. It's a good way because it doesn't knock them far away. So, knowing which moves to use to do like smaller knockbacks is really useful for pits. And of course, Shiva's rear throw is very good for throwing enemies into pits as well. You can also do a jump combo. Sometimes that works well to get the enemy in the pit. You just jump and do a few midair kicks, and you'll be able to do that sometimes. So here there's a lot of weapons on the screen, so if you want, utilize them. Use your flying kicks. Watch out for the knife guys. You see, I still haven't gotten my first one up yet. So that's why this is the hardest part. Now look what happened here. I died, but I earned the one up just after I died because my spirit fist move, or whatever it's called, was doing the work for me as I was dead. Since when you unleash that star move, the clones will attack for you. And while they were attacking for me, they earned me enough points to get the one up. So I barely survived that. It pretty much revived me from the dead. So, but I mean, hopefully you won't have to do it that way, if you can survive up until this point. But you can see why this stage is hard. You have to survive for a very long time to get that first one up. So that's why this was one of the harder stages for me. And it was one of the stages that took me the longest, I think. The last stage took the longest. That probably took over an hour. That was a tough stage. Nothing on Mania Plus gave me a shit ton of trouble with Shiva, though. I didn't have too much trouble with this mode overall. I'd have to look it up again, but I think maybe this mode took me between 2.5 and 3.5 hours to beat. Maybe 3.5. I will note that in the description when I list this video. I have to look it up again, though. But, I mean, it didn't take me an extreme amount of time. So it wasn't too hard for me. Maybe 3.5 hours. Here I was fucking around with the arcade machine because I remember there was arcade bonus fights that you could do that had retro-style graphics, but maybe because I used them already, I couldn't activate them. I don't remember exactly how you activated those fights, but I remember you had to go into the arcade to get them. But it's possible because I already did them. They're not accessible again. I'm not sure. I also destroyed the arcade machine, so maybe that didn't help. So now, hopefully you earned your one up, but you may be like me. You may be on 0 lives still because of how hard it was to survive. But the tactics are the same that I've been using as far as using spamming the flying kick and trying to mob guys together. The strategies don't really change too much for what I did. I mean, of course, you're going to learn how to counter different enemy types and dodge them just by playing the game. The sliding guys are some of the more irritating enemies in the game. So you'll know to aggressively flying kick them because even if they're sliding, if you're doing a flying kick and they slide towards you, the flying kick hits enemies from the ground as well. So as they're sliding, they're going to get hit by the flying kick and knocked back and comboed. So just keep that all in mind. Now, see, I earned another one up at this point, which gave me enough insurance to beat the rest of the stage. And now it's just the boss, which the bosses in this game are usually pretty damn easy. So this is an easy fight. You have a turkey. And my strategy is exactly the same as I did with all the other enemies so far, is to just spam flying kick for as long as I can. Now, if I had a star, I would have used that if I needed it, but I didn't end up needing a star. She's going to use her star attacks, obviously. She will spam those, but I don't find they really cause much of a problem at all. They usually hit way far away from where I'm at. And you're going to see where they're about to hit, so it's not anything cheap that you can't avoid. But I really don't care. I kind of just absorb the damage. I'm very, very aggressive on these fights. I don't care really about getting hit. Unless I'm trying to survive on my last life or something, I'll be more careful. But I mean, I'm mostly just aggressively targeting the boss. That's pretty much what I do. And I do take some hits here and there, but I still have a turkey. I have at least a life or two left. So I'm in very good shape. I really don't have to worry about it. Now, later on, I did learn that Shiva has a defensive special that's really fucking good. It's a great way to juggle enemies. And since the names are in Japanese usually, I don't remember what it's actually called, but it's one of the other defensive specials. You have two defensive specials. I believe one is just a circular kick, and the other one is where he like spreads his arms out. He spreads both arms out at the same time, and it bounces the guys off the floor. Now, if you use that defensive special by just pressing Y when you have it equipped, you have to choose your specials out of the ones you have unlocked. There's only a few that you can unlock, but I recommend doing that in survival mode. Or I guess you could try to unlock them naturally just by playing in story mode if you don't want to do that. But and of course, like I said, you don't really need them. The flying kick I consider to be pretty essential for my strategy, though. If you're watching my video and you want to do what I'm doing, at least unlock the flying kick, at the very least. But the defensive special is actually really good. Now, I didn't know how good it was at this point, because what it does, it'll launch the guys in the air, and then you can then use your flying kick to combo them while they're airborne. And then you just alternate. You use the defensive special, you get the guys airborne, use your flying kick on them, use defensive special again to get them airborne again, use your flying kick again, and you just keep alternating that. And if you do that like in a corner especially, guys will get like all juggled, like tons of guys will get juggled at the same time and comboed. And it's really fucking effective. Now, I wasn't doing that, I don't think, in this run at all. You will see me doing that in survival now, in my newer survival runs. I post up all my survival runs that are over 30 levels in. I don't post, up like smaller runs anymore. I did in the beginning because I was just starting the mode, so I was posting up what I was doing. But if I have a shitty run, for me, anything, in the low 30s is kind of shitty. Because I've done 45 and I'm trying to break 50, so I'm really not happy with anything that's, and below 30 is really bad for me at this point. And it does happen, because it's very easy to die in survival mode. But, yeah, so you're not going to see me using some of the techniques I'm describing now, because I've since learned more since playing survival for who knows how many fucking hours. Probably over 6-7 hours of survival. Maybe over 10. I don't know. I haven't been keeping track. I was banging out sessions. Sometimes I was doing 2 survival sessions back to back, which was like over 2 hours in one sitting. So they do add up. So here you have, you got to worry about these little acid spouts, these steam spouts that come out. So you can see where the vapor is coming out. Those are the ones that are going to shoot at timed intervals. So try to lead the enemies into them if you can, and try to avoid them. This big one back here that comes out of the ground, all this steam is actually really useful for your benefit, because you don't really need to go there and do what I'm doing. I was getting greedy because I wanted that turkey, so I did take some damage, almost died, and could have easily lost the run and had to start the stage over. But I was trying to get that fucking turkey, Whenever I see fucking rotten turkey bottoms, man, it's so tempting. I usually can't resist. So now you have these flying kick enemies. These women are very aggressive. They're some of the more annoying enemies, as I've mentioned, because they'll fly and kick you, and sometimes it's hard to get the first hit in before they jump on you. They also don't stay on a single plane while jumping. They kind of move diagonally, so even if you're a little bit below them, they can jump kick you and hit you. It's very annoying. So now you got these rolling fats and quite a hard, cyborg type of enemy, which can throw shit at you and do a lot of damage. See, like that. Which the damage, I guess, isn't too bad. I'm used to the damage they do on the later levels of survival, which can get you killed in one hit. That's what I was thinking about. But they're still a pain in the ass. You got to watch out for them. But you can combo them with flying kicks, and really, even if you're fighting 2 of them at the same time, they're really not that bad with Shiva and his flying kicks, and an occasional defensive special, especially if you juggle, like I was talking about, doing a juggle flying kick with the use your defensive special and then follow it up with a flying kick. You can really loop them into an endless kind of combo. Or at least a very long combo. You'll take most of their health away, if not all of it. Now, I know Shiva probably has infinite combos as well, which people have made tutorials on. Now, like I said, that stuff is a little bit more advanced. I didn't really delve that deep. Maybe I should, but for survival mode, I see some of the best players too, and they're not doing like infinite combos and shit like that too much. Because when you have 15 enemies on screen at the same time, maybe 6 of them or 8 of them are bosses, you're not going to really have time to do all these fancy combos. You got to stick to more simple stuff, basics. I think that's why, a lot of players end up doing that, including myself. And I'm no great player of Streets of Rage 4. But, I've played through a shitload of beat-em-ups and games in general. So, I'm able to take that. And I was able to pick this game up pretty fast with Shiva and do well in survival and do, the Mania 1cc and the Mania Plus. Wasn't too bad for me. Like I said, Mania Plus, it was hard. But a lot of the levels I did kind of blaze through. A few of them I got stuck on for a little while. So there's a lot of weapons around here in the arenas. Now, a new annoying enemy type comes out, which is probably my least favorite enemy in the entire fucking game. I find them to be the most irritating enemy in the game. I think if I had to pick a number one most irritating enemy, it's these charging women. They have masks on and they will charge you, and they'll even go in a diagonal to charge at your location. See them all appearing on the left? They can be extremely annoying and do tons of damage. They'll also pile drive you, aggressively pile drive you, which is super fucking annoying. So, I don't really remember them pile driving me like a year ago when I played the game. I don't know if that was added. See that pile driver? I don't remember them doing that. But I haven't played the game in a long time, so I don't remember if they did. But anyway, this level, it's not... I don't remember this level being like... it was a challenging level for sure, but... There's a lot of enemies you can combo off of, and you see I already have 2 lives at this point, and I'm not even done with the level yet. And I don't remember if I died yet on this level, because I wasn't paying attention as I'm explaining the strategies. But, so you can use the weapons here and just juggle them and just weapon kill them. You don't even have to worry about fighting a lot of them directly. But it is harder to do that when there's like 10 of them charging you at the same time. So, if they're about to charge you from say the left side, start spamming weapons on that side, and a lot of them will run into your weapons. You can air juggle the weapons and just keep hitting them. But sometimes it gets super aggressive. You want to go back to your flying kick maneuvers and just chaining combos with that. And of course, I'm not demonstrating the defensive special with the flying kick to do the juggles, but if I was going to make a tutorial now, I'd be heavily recommending that. Though I wouldn't use the defensive special like crazy, because again, it does drain some of your health, so you do got to be careful with getting too excited with using that. You don't really have to worry about it too much in survival mode, because you get so many buffs to the point where you reduce the cost of your specials by 60% or something, so it's not as much of an issue. And then you have Bloodthirst, which regenerates health, so it's different. But that's why I say some of the strategies you're going to be using in survival mode are not applicable at all to story mode. So I do think it's worth making a separate tutorial for this. Probably could have covered most of this crowd control information in like a 10-minute, 15-minute tutorial. But I do like to kind of give just to make it entertaining, I like to kind of do commentary over my full runs a lot of times. Now, I have done a few truncated tutorials, which were basically going over all the things you would need to know to beat a game, like my Road Rash tutorial for I believe it was PS1. I made a 30-minute tutorial instead of, 2 to 4 hours or whatever it takes to actually beat all the tracks in the game, because most of them are repeat tracks that just get longer. So I showed some of the longer versions of the tracks, and I made it more truncated. I explained how to get the best bike in the game early on by farming. Stuff like that, because I didn't think I needed to talk for 3 or 4 hours on that game, but a lot of times I do try to show the full games so I can go over different strategies and things. And just for entertainment, I kind of like reviewing the runs, making them into a full tutorial. But I do admit that a lot of what I'm going to say is going to be redundant, because it really is a lot of the same basic techniques. Just you adapt on the spot with these games with crowd control. So, you're using the basic foundational techniques that you've already learned, but you're just using them really quickly. You're switching tactics on the spot. But a lot of what I'm doing is really just, changing the direction of my flying kick, using a few regular attacks here and there. It's really, I didn't have to get super complex to beat this, the Mania Plus. And even survival becomes very, very simple in concept. It becomes very frustrating because you can die in one hit on the later levels very easily. But the concept of it is really, really simple in a lot of ways. I mean, if you look at the basics. It's just that if you fuck up for a moment, you'll be dead. And sometimes things feel out of your control with the traps and other bullshit. But, you know, it's not always really advanced to get good at these games. You know, you don't necessarily need to be doing crazy juggle combos and all that kind of shit. I mean, if you're looking to just accomplish some of the things that I've done so far, like the 45 survival and things like that, you just got to pay attention to a few basic things. You know, you're not gonna have to, you know, study a book. I'm not patient enough to study a bunch of shit. So usually if you see me doing something, I won't, unless I really have to and I really want to get good at a game, I will, you know, then usually do what it takes. But I usually find ways around having to memorize tons of shit. And, you know, the stuff that I use in these kind of games, I usually memorize it because I've been using it and it's been effective. I'm not into using flashy moves and shit like that just to use them to look, you know, to make it look cool. I like just beating shit. So for me, you know, if I say my goal was to get all S rankings on Mania Plus, then I would just do whatever was effective for that. You know, for me, for my play style, I wouldn't try to do anything that looks cool. You know, I would just be playing it to accomplish my goal, and that would be pretty much it. I'm very straightforward in that sense. These guys are annoying. These flying knee guys. They're basically Joe Higashi from Fatal Fury, if you're familiar with that series. Great fucking fighting series. But yeah, those guys are very annoying though, because they will kind of flying kick you from a large distance, and they do block a lot of your attacks. But again, spamming flying kick is really the way to go. I mean, yeah, you may get hit occasionally, but if you're aggressive enough, you're going to get through it because you have a lot of invincibility frames with flying kick blitz, so you don't have to worry about it too much. And you do have a lot of tools in this game at your disposal. So you have your occasional special to get you out of a bad spot and get a combo started. You know, you can always use a Spirit Palm to start up a combo and then finish the combo off with the flying kick. Now, another thing you may like for story mode that I've used at certain points when I was playing this game was instead of Spirit Palm, he has another offensive special. It's the other one that's not Spirit Palm. I think it starts with an H. But, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not good at remembering Japanese fucking names. But if you use that, it actually flows better into a flying kick. Like, you can land your flying kick and spam it immediately, and it just flows really fucking smooth. It's like this horizontal fucking annihilation across the screen. You know, flying kick, then spam that, flying kick, spam that. And, you know, if enemies are approaching behind you as you're flying kicking to the left, spam the offensive special to the right, and it'll get those guys all fucked up. Then you can start flying kicking into them, and so on. And you can zigzag the whole screen left to right. But now, of course, you got to be careful because in story mode, it does waste a lot of health if you're spamming specials like that. But it is something you can do if you're having trouble and need to clear out a whole field of enemies, you know, a whole wave of enemies. You can do that kind of shit, and it can pull a lot of bullshit. So it is something to consider. You may not see me doing it in this run. Like I said, I learned a lot of things in survival mode that I didn't really know about. Remember, I just kind of picked up this game and jumped into it because of the new characters. I was really fucking enjoying survival, so I just started getting into it. And I really barely tried the other DLC characters. I kind of just jumped into Shiva. I was like, man, this shit is fucking awesome. Loved the way Shiva played. And it was really fitting my playstyle, so I was getting into it. I unlocked his moves. Really fucking enjoyed it. Now I'm addicted to the survival mode. I may even try another run today after I finish this tutorial. But I've been doing them pretty routinely. Been doing at least one run a day of survival. So, yeah, now you got a bunch of fats, which are always very annoying, especially on the final stage where there's tons of them that come out near the end. But yeah, you got a lot of these enemies. Now, depending on your live situation, you may want to use a star just to clear out all this bullshit. I was trying to hold out for a while because I was already decent on lives. I think I have like 2 lives. Even though it says 1, I think I have like 2. And my health was okay. Plus, there's some health over here. See, I get my health back here. Now, these guys usually can be extremely difficult. I used a star to be safe to preserve my you know, the amount of lives that I had. I didn't really want to lose a life because I didn't remember if the boss was hard. I didn't even remember what was left on this stage, probably. So, but usually these guys are tough, but not with Shiva's flying kick. So with Shiva's flying kick, I wasn't even aware of the position. I believe when they're in a block position, they may counter the move, but for some reason, flying kick usually seems to go through them anyway. And at worst case, they may block it. Sometimes they'll throw me across the screen, but it doesn't seem to do much damage. So, you know, all I really did here was very fucking simple. I was just flying kicking the shit out of them. And, you know, I would use a few regular moves to finish them off. and I was kind of sloppy. I think I do fight them better later on, and I'm going to have to observe how I fought them exactly to see if there was any little subtle changes I may have made. So we'll see that later in the run. So this area is actually really easy with Shiva. I remember this being hard with the other players on regular Mania long ago. But this is really quite easy with Shiva. You just have to be very fast at switching directions and throwing the weapon. The weapon is really long, so it's easy to stay on top of it. So, mostly, use an occasional flying kick to clear yourself some room. But you can just spam these throwing weapons, especially this spear. So you'll see here that I'm just staying all the way on the right side at this first part and spamming the throws. It's really all you need to do for this first section here, and I'm going to continue that now. And now guys are going to come from both sides, which makes it a little trickier. So you got to be faster here with spamming. You got to be able to switch directions fast before doing it, obviously. I think I lost a life here anyway, but I think the strategy was generally pretty good because the guys have really long spears. So using your flying kicks, it's easy. You can still get poked if you don't space them right. You can get hit before you start the flying kick, basically. Once you're in a flying kick, you're kind of invincible for the most part. I don't think you can get knocked out of a flying kick. But you can, as soon as you land, you can get fucked up. So you got to be careful. And of course, before your takeoff with the flying kick, you can get knocked out of it, I believe. So same strategy here. I'm really utilizing the weapons to do the most damage. And I am mixing in flying kicks as well because the guys do encroach on you quick. Now, if this was survival mode, I wouldn't even have to worry about using my flying kick because I would have electricity applied to the weapons. So when I threw them, they would stun everybody. And then, of course, I could air juggle the weapon until everybody was dead, pretty much. But you can't do that as easily without the electric on the weapon because there are no electricity buffs or anything in this game, in this story mode. So here you have a few apples if you need them. You see I already have like 2 or 3 lives from the lives that I earned already. So I'm in good shape at this point. So I didn't need the apples this time, but if you need them, just take as many as you need. Don't take them all if you don't need them all. Save whatever you don't need because this is a hard part. And it's always good to try to budget all your healing items to survive these kind of modes. It makes it a lot more approachable. Because, sometimes you can stretch out a life for a really long time by getting to the next healing item. They're essentially like checkpoints in a way. So, you find that turkey or that full heal, and it can keep you alive. It's like getting another life almost. And, of course, if you're keeping your combos up best you can, you may earn a few lives as I did. You see, I'm constantly getting knocked out of combos. I'm not even trying to bank them by letting them time out naturally. And my score is more than high enough to get a few lives. So it really doesn't take that much with the flying kick blitz if you're spamming it like I am. You see, that's the main attack I was doing for Mania Plus mode. Actually, in survival, it's become Spirit Palm that I'm starting to spam the most. But that's after I get a bunch of perks that allow me to do that. But yeah, Shiva is actually a very easy boss with the flying kick. You're fighting yourself, but he's not going to be as abusive as you're going to be with those flying kicks. He's actually the version of Shiva before the new moves were added, I believe. So he doesn't have any flying kicks. So yeah, just abuse your flying kick, use a few regular hits, do a few air combos, which are very easy. An air combo with Shiva is as easy as doing a jump kick on the enemy and just mashing the punch button a few times. It's that easy. So there's nothing advanced about what I'm doing with that when I use those. But mostly I'm using flying kick. I use, I may have used a star special and some other stuff. There's no minions in this fight, so it's really fucking easy. Most of his stuff is not going to hit you anyway, and you can use regular hits, air combo, you see there. And I'm not even using my defensive special or any of that shit, so if you'll notice on Mania Plus, I rarely even use my specials. That's because I don't like draining my health by using specials, because I'd rather try to save my health and use my flying kick blitz, which is so powerful anyway and so effective. I try to survive off of that, and I try not to use regular specials. Now, of course, my strategies are almost the complete opposite in survival mode. Streets of Rage 3 Zan, my favorite character of the first 3 Streets of Rage games on the Genesis. And that's the character that I ended up using to beat Streets of Rage 3 for my first and only time on the Genesis, which I have a tutorial up of that as well, so you can check that out if you're interested. But, just because he was my favorite character in Streets of Rage 3 doesn't mean he plays nearly as well in this version of the game. So I think Shiva is still... I mean, I tried him in this game, and he just doesn't have all the other advanced moves and things. Like, these characters are much better integrated than when you try to play the base characters. I think there's even achievements for beating the game with the base characters because, you know, they're harder to use than these new characters that were designed around the systems of Streets of Rage 4. So a good way to dodge those things is to do air combos. It's one of the only areas where I'm doing more air combos because it keeps me in the air for a little while. As soon as I see that exclamation mark pop up, I will usually start doing air combos because I know it's going to keep me in the air long enough for the barricade not to hit me since I'm going to be in the air. So that's what I was doing there. This is actually a very short and easy stage, but you don't really want to take damage from the... because you do start with 0 lives on Mania Plus, so you don't really want to take damage from those barricades. It's easy to die before you get to the boss. There's a lot of enemies here. So the cops like to beat up the thugs, so I think they do some damage on them for you. I guess you could let that play out if you wanted to, but I don't wait around for that. So yeah, this is nothing special here. You don't have any barricades, but these cops are annoying. They will rush and grab you and do a lot of damage. You can use the taser as well to kind of stun them and throw them at, do a lot of damage to them. The taser does good damage. So again, try to try not to get hit like that. It doesn't do a ton of damage even on Mania Plus, so it's not a huge deal. But try to get an aerial combo going if you can when you see that escalation point. Sometimes you get trapped in a grab. You're stuck grabbing somebody. Another thing you can do is you have invincibility frames whenever you throw somebody. So another way you can dodge the barricade is wait for the barricade to, or the signs, I guess is what they are. Wait for the signs to approach your position and then just do a throw. If you time it right, you'll dodge the signs. So if you're stuck in a grab, you still can dodge the signs if you throw it just the right moment. But it is a tight timing. I find it a lot easier just to do an air combo than just trying to... You can also just jump at the right moment. That's the hardest to do. That's very precise timing. And I've done that as well, but it's hit or miss for me. A lot of times I will fuck it up because the enemies will fuck up my timing. So I found it easier to just do air combos to stay up in the air. And I only really do the air combos when I know a sign is about to approach me, when I get that little exclamation mark on the screen. So this is another very easy boss. I think this one doesn't even have any minions, if I remember. Well, actually, no, but she may. I think she brings out commissioners, maybe. She may, which is the boss you fought, before, but now there's 2 of them and her. But she was still very easy because I just focused my attacks on her, and I pretty much mostly just ignore the enemies. They're not going to cause you that much trouble. Yeah, you see, there's 2 commissioners, but I decided to use my star and just continue pressing against her, basically. Getting the full insertion, basically. Balls and all, as they say. But, so shortly after all that, the fight will be done. This is probably the easiest stage in the game, aside from maybe the first stage or something like that. Very easy stage. This might have been the other S ranking because it was so easy, but I don't remember. I see this was an A, so this wasn't the other S ranking, but this is probably not a very hard stage to S rank if you wanted to. But again, I don't know the requirements of S ranking and all that shit, so I'm not even going to try to explain that since I never looked it up or tried for it. I mean, I'm guessing it has something to do with not using a lot of star specials and not taking a lot of damage, but I'm not sure. Maybe combos help too, but it's all speculative. This stage is really not too bad. You've already beaten much harder stages, so I don't think you're going to have too much trouble with this. But we do see a new enemy here, which is these. Of course, she's probably not new. If you've beaten the game on normal, hopefully you didn't start the game on Mania Plus. That would be pretty hard. But yeah, so these enemies will be throwing tons of fire on the ground, which is pretty fucking irritating. They are again, they're one of the more annoying enemies in the game, and depending on which part of the game you're on, they can be one of the most annoying. But a lot of times they're easy enough to avoid the fire. The problem is that they will drop the fire on the ground when you hit them, and sometimes you'll land right in it, so that kind of sucks. You got to be careful with that. Sometimes it's better to toss them and throw them out of the way. But I usually just stick to my flying kicks. If I get hit with the fire, I just take the damage, and it's usually not a game breaker because it doesn't happen to me too often. Now this golden turkey, for some reason, gave me a 1-up or some shit just by using it. Or maybe that was because my combo finished. I just remember as soon as I kicked the turkey, I got a 1-up. I think that might have been a coincidence, now that I'm watching the footage. I think the golden turkey is a weapon that doesn't break and that you can keep using again and again. So you may be able to carry over that golden turkey. The problem with Shiva is that he can't bring the weapon down, to throw it through the hallway to get it over here. So I don't know that you can transport it over here. And I don't think you can lure all these enemies to that where that turkey was. So I don't know if you'd be able to abuse it. But you do have a knife you can throw around. The thing with Shiva when it comes to weapons is he can only use the weapons in the position that they're in. He can throw them across horizontally, but he can't move them up at all. That's all he can do. So you can't, you have to kind of direct the enemies to the weapon and try to juggle them in the air that way with the weapon to do a lot of damage. I guess I decided to throw that on the ground and walk in it just for fun. So now you have more of these cops, which we've dealt with a bunch. I think the red ones are a little bit more aggressive or dangerous, but, I really didn't notice. So this part, it can be irritating because you're going to deal with a lot of this stuff. But the grenades are easier to dodge because they have a timer on them. You'll see them blinking before they explode. So you have time to get into the gaps. So I found this to be easy to deal with. I didn't have a problem with this. And now I'm up to about 2 or 3 lives. I think 3. I think it's 1 more life than what it shows. So yeah, now I'm up to 3 lives. And, I'm in good shape. This is very easy so far. This really didn't give me much of a problem. You can use air combos to stay up in the air a little bit and dodge stuff too, obviously. Like we did on that train stage. The grenades that are not flashing means that you can kick them and they will blow up on the enemies. Now, I believe you can kick the flashing ones too, but I just don't bother with that. Because, I don't really want to risk getting blown up when I'm trying to kick a flashing grenade. But you may be able to do that. I think you can also throw grenades and the toxic potions back at the enemies if you time your throw button right in midair. But I just never bothered with all that. I mean, it's easy. I found it to be very easy. As long as you aggressively take out those women and just keep your eye on the gaps where the grenades aren't. Because as long as you stay out of the range of the grenades, it's really not too hard. I didn't remember having no issues with it, but of course that could vary because it can be dangerous with all that shit going on. But I don't think it's going to be harder for most players than what you've already beaten to get to this point. So I take the turkey pretty much at the last moment because, I usually like to try to pick up the health at the last moment. So, whatever damage I'm going to take, I can just take it and then get it back. There's only a few enemies here, so it's very easy. It is worth picking up points items and health when you're at full health because if you pick up a health item at full health, you get points. You get a decent amount of points. But it adds up after a while. So you want to pick up all that shit. The reason you want points is so that you can earn, more 1-ups. In survival mode, points will earn you stars, so they're important there as well. But in this mode, getting a 1-up can also save your ass. It can always, be a lifesaver. Now, this boss was very easy, I found. I mean, they can be a little dangerous, but all you're going to do, it's the first boss. So all you're going to do is just chain flying kicks again and again, just try to clear them out. You may take some damage, but you got some healing items in here and shit. You got an apple there. You got 2 more crates up at the top. I also have 2 stars because I didn't need to use a star for the entire level because the level was so easy. So I found this to be very easy because I could have just cashed in my stars, did massive damage. Now this may have been the S ranking. I'm guessing again. I think it might have been stage 8 or something like that. I think I only got maybe 2 S rankings on this mode just by playing normally. So the reason that's worth mentioning is because that means that this stage is probably pretty fucking easy. Because I wasn't trying for the ranks. So if I got an S when I beat it, I think this was a stage that I beat my first time playing it. I don't even think I practiced this stage. But of course, you're dealing with all these enemies throughout the game, so it's not like you're being introduced to new things every stage. So it's, same basic crowd control. So at this point, I have 4 lives left. So, I mean, I was fucking destroying their stage by this point. You can do a few air combos, whatever the hell you want. When she does her move where she pounds the ground and causes a fire on the ground, you could try to do a little air combo to dodge it, maybe. I think that may work. But I don't worry about all that shit. I didn't even care if I lost a life, really. I was like, whatever, I had plenty of fucking disposable lives. And again, I was just going for the completion. I mean, of course, I'm always thinking it'd be kind of cool just for fun, just to get the S rank or whatever, because it looks cool, it's fun. But I don't try to die intentionally. I could have sacrificed a bunch of lives and played really sloppy, I guess, but I don't usually try to do that. But if I was just trying to beat it and it was a hard stage, I wouldn't care. This stage is annoying. This is another one of the harder stages. Very fucking annoying. And the reason I get irritated more with this stage is because the ground is slippery. And Survival has stages like this too, where it's raining and it's slippery, and those are very irritating. It really does fuck up your rhythm with trying to do the flying kicks and do various moves. So it can mess you up. I recommend inching the screen kind of conservatively in this stage, because you can spawn a bunch more enemies at the same time that you really don't need to do. So just try to deal with this mob first, and try not to be too aggressive with going all the way to the right. Because from what I remember, you can reduce some of the enemies on screen if you don't go all the way to the right. Not always, though. Sometimes it's just fixed. Sometimes you have to deal with all the enemies at once. But see, here I think there's only like 3 guys. I think this is where I was being kind of conservative. You can just deal with these 3 guys, and you don't have to worry about everybody else joining in. So just, kind of wait just wait at the left of the screen and just deal with them. You can fight them all at the same time if you want, of course, but if you're just trying to beat the stage, you may want to play it safe like I did. Because you start with 0 lives, and this is why this level is kind of a pain in the ass. Because it's hard to earn your first 1-up. It's hard to survive to the first 1-up. If you can get out of this locker room, well, not the locker room, you can get out of this little steam room, then you're pretty much going to be close to getting your first 1-up. But it is hard because there's a lot of enemies in this steam room to deal with. So it's hard to get to that point. It's a little tough. Starting with 0 lives makes Mania Plus a lot harder in itself without all the extra stuff they added, all the extra enemies and aggressiveness. It does seem more aggressive than regular Mania, as well as having a shit ton more enemies. I mean, a lot more fucking enemies on Mania Plus. But once you have strategies down, a lot of this stuff is going to apply. If you beat Mania already with Shiva, say you did that first, then Mania Plus is probably not going to be much harder for you, I wouldn't think. Because there's a lot of ways to mitigate some of that damage, and using budgeting your stars and using them at the hardest points of a stage can earn you a lot of, it can give you enough time to survive and get the next healing item. And you can also get massive combos by doing shit like that, which can give you more points. You might be able to get a 1-up. Little things like that. You learn, if you die on a stage a lot, you're going to learn about, you're going to know about which part of the stage is where you're going to earn your points for the 1-up. You're going to be like, all right, well, I know around here I should get enough points soon to get my next life. So I got to try to hang on for a little bit longer. Maybe survive off a healing item. I may have to use a star to survive a little bit longer, but let me try to, drag out this life as long as I can. It's those kind of things that will help you beat these stages. Again, I'm trying not to go all the way to the right just in case a bunch of enemies are going to spawn, but I don't know if they will in this part. Sometimes, like I said, you have to fight them all regardless. So yeah, no, I could have moved to the right if I wanted to. I wanted to bring that mop over to the next area, but because of the way it's lined up with Shiva, you cannot carry it down. If you're using a different character, just bring it with you and start throwing it at this next wave of enemies. But Shiva cannot do that since he cannot pick them up. So now we're dealing with these guys again, which can be very dangerous because they're one of the only enemies that counter your moves. But if you keep doing flying kick, you can really chain a ton of damage on them. And they're not really successful most of the time at reversing the flying kick. I mean, they will. But it's not really going to be that frequent. At least for me, it wasn't. But they can get in combos and they can throw you around a lot. The reason that this part is hard on this stage is because you still probably haven't earned your 1-up yet, unless you were doing massive combos. If you're really good at comboing, you could have gotten it probably by this point. But if you're just playing like me and just doing combos when possible, reasonably, then you're probably not going to have your 1-up. But now I got my first life, so now I'm in good shape. So now if I die, at least I have something to hold on to. But I believe there's still some hard parts left in the stage, so it's definitely not a guarantee. So hopefully if you have a life, you can kind of survive this next group of enemies. I used my star here because, it does get a little dangerous, and my health was not great. Unfortunately, I put myself in a bad spot by using a bunch of my specials. But I was able to earn most of the health back by comboing, so that was good. So in 6,000 points, I'll get my next one up, which is not too far off. There's another star here, some points, healing. This part is very easy. You just have a few gun guys, and you have some vases and stuff where you can pick up more fucking items, more points, more shit like that, and then the doors will open again shortly, I believe. So that's a very easy part to deal with. The gun enemies can be dangerous, but they usually do very small damage. It's just annoying when you have a lot of other enemies. But when there's only a few of them and those are the only enemies, it's usually not too bad. Survival has some annoying parts where there's only those guys and there's a shit ton of them. And that can be kind of irritating, but it's, they're usually not too hard to deal with. So yeah, see I knocked a big chunk of them off out of the window. If you can do that, try to do that. You do have to break the glass first for it to be open for you to knock guys through it. So throw them into the glass if you can. And if you do that, you'll be able to break the glass. So yeah, hopefully my power doesn't go out because there's a thunderstorm now, as you can hear. If so, I will re-record this whole second half of the tutorial. But yeah, try to knock these guys out of the glass if you can. But the main thing is when you're doing your flying kicks, try not to fly out the window. Because it's kind of hard to not fly out the window sometimes. And these guys will throw you out the window. So be careful. Try to take them out fast. Try to throw out some of the guys that you can out the window. See, these guys will throw you out the fucking window as well. But if you can, try to knock them out the window. It's a lot faster, but it's also dangerous to get that close to the glass. As you see, I died because I was getting too close to the glass and I wasn't able to take them out. And it's easy to lose a lot of lives on this part because it's just so easy to fall out. I wasn't real effective at this point at using smaller moves to knock guys out the window. I should have used my charge heavy kick and I could have just knocked them straight out of the glass. That's a fast way to knock guys back immediately. Or maybe an air combo is good, shit like that, but I wasn't really that knowledgeable about the best ways to do some of that shit at this point. So if I played this again more recently, I would have used some of that for sure. So keep that in mind. This is not the optimal way to do everything. So here I cashed in my star because things were getting nasty and I was about to lose my life. I would have probably definitely lost a life. So don't be afraid to use the star if you need it. A lot of times there will be a star pickup on a boss fight and things like that. Luckily, this game has quite easy boss fights even on the hardest difficulty. It's one of the easiest parts of the game that really stands out even when you're playing on the hardest mode. Because the rest of the game gets much harder, but the bosses feel pretty much the same to me. Maybe they take more hits to kill, but I'm not even sure about that. They probably do, but either way, it's not significant enough with all the items they give you in the arenas. Usually, whenever I made it to a boss in Mania Plus, I was usually good to go as far as beating the stage. I rarely ever died on any of the boss fights from what I remember. So if I was able to get to the boss, it was almost like a guarantee that I was probably going to beat the stage. Because I could use my flying kicks, I could pick up the healing items, I may have a few stars or lives left. These fat guys are always annoying. If you can, maybe try to throw them out. So here's the boss. This was an easy fight. I may lose a life here, but... or maybe not. I may have gotten the turkey. So keep in mind there's a few pickups, a few healings. But again, I didn't even worry about when this guy was charging up his power move. Because I know he's going to release a really powerful move when he charges up like that. But I didn't worry about it. I just kept aggressively, flying kick, and that was pretty much it. I do a few regular hits, but I don't worry about it. And I had... enough health, to survive. I had 2 lives as well. Healing items still remaining. I don't think I had any stars to use, but I really didn't need it. But yeah, it got a little bit intense, but not too bad. I wasn't using much strategy at all, as you can see. For most of my boss fights, I don't have good tips because mostly when I fight them even survival mode, I spam flying kicks a lot of times. I don't really try to pay too much attention to trying to dodge their moves individually. I usually just aggressively charge them. I mean, I will do a little dodging here and there, but I can be pretty fucking reckless especially when I have some lives remaining. So for that reason, I don't have a real deep understanding of all the boss openings and stuff like that in the game. But it was good enough to beat Boss Rush and to get to 45 in survival. So, unless forced to to learn the bosses better. I just get better by continually to play. Eventually, I will start to just naturally understand some things that I shouldn't. I shouldn't fuck with the boss when he's doing certain things. I'll eventually just learn through sheer trial and error, and I have gotten better on some of them just from that. I was one of the players who pretty much I beat Mania in the original game, and then I was pretty much done with it. I was never a hardcore player of the game. And I'm still not, but I do like to play regularly now in survival. But you don't have to be, you don't have to know any advanced techniques. I mean, just pay attention to some of the basics I explained, and that's going to help you, give you a little bit of an edge. But as far as surviving, there's not a whole hell of a lot that you have to understand to complete the things that I've completed in the game. So for those that are getting into it, don't be overwhelmed by having to study a bunch of mechanics or memorize how to bounce guys off walls and do all that crazy shit. Don't even worry about that. Some of that stuff you're just going to learn from playing the game anyway. You'll see, if a guy's bouncing off a wall towards you, you'll know that you can do a jump combo to keep him in the air a little bit longer, or a flying kick to make him land into your flying kick. Throw a weapon at a guy as he bounces off a wall, stuff like just basic stuff. But that's very easy to do. Yeah, it's just something you'll figure out from playing the game. I don't remember this stage being too difficult. I think it's a little challenging because the wrecking ball is kind of irritating in this upcoming area, I believe. It is a little tricky, though, because there's a lot of these, there's a lot of enemies in these kind of tight areas where there's some holes and stuff. So, and most of the holes that are in the areas are pretty loose. So, that does make it kind of difficult. I mean, if all the holes were tight, then it wouldn't be that bad. But when you have a bunch of loose holes just hanging around, you don't know what kind of diseases they have. They could be dripping all kinds of fucking fluid and stuff like that. This part's kind of irritating. Actually, this is not the part with the wrecking ball. This is, it is coming up, but this is the part where it's kind of a large area and you got a bunch of these women trying to charge you, grenades everywhere. I remember this being more irritating on Mania, but they may have nerfed or buffed it. Not buffed it, but they may have made this area easier in updates. I'm sure this game got numerous updates from when it was released. I remember this area being a lot more annoying on regular Mania when I beat it, that long time ago. But then again, I didn't have access to Shiva, which is pretty fucking powerful. I mean, he's a pretty damn versatile character. He really makes it a lot easier to survive, I think. At least for me. I was pretty good with Sherry. She was really fucking shit up, I remember, when I played as her. I liked her a lot. But this character easily became my new character. I would like to try Max out some more. Max seems like he can be really fucking cool. Tons of damage. Very fucking slow, though. So it's a totally different playstyle with him, but he probably would be worth learning. But Shiva seems to be the most effective character overall in survival, so there's no reason for me really to play him unless I get so good with him that I kind of negate Shiva. But if I'm just trying to do well, get as far as I can, Shiva seems like the best bet for survival. But if I do change my mind, maybe I will do better one day with someone else. I really didn't try a lot of the characters too much since the DLC. I barely tried any of them. When the game came out, I did kind of try the original characters a decent amount. So yeah, here you got 3 fats at the same time. So try to group them together. It always makes it easier. But it's nothing new that you haven't seen. That one area was dangerous with all the charging women and the explosive Molotov cocktails and shit. For that area, you just want to aggressively try to get all the enemies grouped together as usual and flying kick. Stay off the areas where the hazards are, obviously. There is a little pit here. You can try to knock guys into that little hole. The wrecking ball can be dangerous because it can easily, it's really hard to avoid sometimes once it gets moving. But you can also utilize it pretty well and knock a lot of the enemies around. I wasn't doing my flying kicks here because I didn't want to go in the hole again. But yeah, if you get that wrecking ball moving, it'll do some damage for you. So you may want to utilize that a little bit. Just hit it, but get out of the way. Sometimes it's hard, though, because, you can't get out of the way fast enough always. Because of that narrow platform, you can't just, hit it and then move up like you normally would and stay up at the top. You have to get past the bridge, and you can easily grab somebody accidentally, as you saw me do there. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's better to not move the wrecking ball when you're trying to move through that little bridge. It's better just leave it alone and get to the other side. If you want to hit the wrecking ball, use a charged up kick, an axe kick. which is your charge move. Use that to hit the wrecking ball. See, wasn't paying attention to things like that until now. Now that's what I would have done if I played this stage again. I would have used my charge kick to move the ball. And that'll hit the guys. So here's another area with another wrecking ball. But at least now you can move fully up and down and avoid the wrecking ball once it gets moving. So it's a lot easier, but still, there are going to be some hard enemies that emerge. I believe there's 2 of the cyborgs that come out, which can be hard when you have 2 of them at the same time. But use the wrecking ball to get some nice initial damage when possible. And mainly just use the flying kicks. Flying kicks are also a great way to dodge attacks. So when they start stomping down on the ground, launch into a flying kick as they're coming down. And you can actually dodge all their stomps if you do it right. Even when they go crazy with stomping, you can flying kick past each stomp. And I have done that, but I don't know if I end up doing that here. But it's something I do a lot when I deal with these guys. You do have weapons all over the fucking place that you can just throw at the enemies, but the cyborgs will grab your the weapons that you throw at them a lot and throw them back at you. So you can, of course, then grab it after they throw it at you, you can grab the weapon and throw it back at them again. But it's not always the easiest thing to do. I don't usually bother with all that bullshit. But yeah, just be careful. I recommend prioritizing the cyborgs. Try to get all your damage on the cyborgs mainly, and try to damage the other guys as a result of attacking the cyborgs. But don't really focus on the other enemies. I wouldn't really recommend that too much. This guy is not hard. There's some pickups here. I have 3 lives remaining. So like I said, this mode was not really giving me a shit ton of trouble. And I wasn't doing anything too complicated. But with these guys, Flying Blitz works very well, and eventually their armor will go down and they'll get stunned. That's when you can damage them. You can't damage them when they have their armor up. Or if you can, it's very little damage if it does damage them. But the main way to damage them is getting their armor off by damaging them a certain amount of damage, and then they will go in that stun state. And you can see how much damage before they get stunned if you look at the shield meter, but I wasn't even paying attention to that when I played. I would just keep trying to blitz them, basically. I didn't even really worry about trying to dodge their projectiles and all that too much. I was just, I'm just bouncing around, playing pretty fucking sloppy. I wasn't too concerned with it. I used my special. I had star specials. I had plenty of resources at this point. So I wasn't too worried about it. I just aggressively tried to take them down as fast as possible. I could have been using the Spirit Fist special with all these flying kicks. It would have been super effective. That's what I usually currently do when I deal with them in survival now. But at this point, I was still kind of, still relatively new to Shiva. And even the game, I just hadn't played in a long time. But yeah, this boss shouldn't give much trouble. You can take out some of the minions if you want to. It's optional. But if they're not giving you too much trouble, just focus all your damage on the boss, because killing him will eliminate all the enemies automatically. So that's the fastest way to do it. So now we're approaching the end of the game. Stage 11 is, I believe this level can be a little challenging. Yeah, this level's, I think, pretty tough. I did die on it a few times, but I don't remember it giving me a lot of trouble. But I also don't remember exactly what comes up in this stage. I remember a few parts of the stage, but you can knock the guys off the right side of the screen, so keep that in mind. The left side's a wall, but the right side, it doesn't look like you can, but see, you can fall off the right side, and the enemies can fall off as well. So it is actually kind of hard to stay up on the platform, because the enemies, they jump kick you like a motherfucker, so they knock you across the screen very easily. These jump kicking guys are very aggressive in this stage and very annoying, as you can see. Now, somehow I already earned a 1-up, which I wasn't paying attention. I guess I must have got some good combos in or some shit. So yeah, you got these fire enemies, which are annoying on this small platform. because you can easily just fall off the right side, bounce off the fire. In this game, you easily go flying and you easily bounce off of everything in the fucking environment, which I think is kind of overdone in this game as far as, yourself getting juggled by anything pretty much. Especially in survival, you'll see how much of a problem it is when you die so fast, and you can get, an enemy can kick you and then you go flying into 4 different traps in the environment and then you fall in the pit. And, it's like a pinball. You have no control once it gets moving. So it can feel cheap to take that much damage from what is basically just a single kick, because you got juggled into everything. But I do like that the game has tons of juggling and bouncing off of shit. On the other hand, I like it because it's really cool, the kind of combos you can do on enemies, bouncing enemies off the environment. It just kind of sucks when it happens to you. It can feel cheap. So yeah, with the shield guys, you do basically do a few hits, then do a flying kick, and then you'll be on the other side of them, then flying kick in the other direction. That's usually enough to take the shield down and finish them off normally. They're pretty easy enemies. This area is kind of hard, though, because of the electric women throwing electricity all over the fucking place. Now you can throw some electricity down there and get some early damage to the shields, which is useful. But there's a lot of shit going on here, so it can get hard to not die in this area. The cops are especially annoying, and they're the main annoyance here because they grab you easily. See, they keep grabbing me and doing bullshit. And that was what was giving me the main problem. I just kept getting grabbed. It seems like they're getting even more aggressive than they were earlier in the game. Really going crazy with the grabs. The enemies overall just seem to be moving much faster and aggressively by this point in the game. You see these women are throwing shit out like crazy very quickly. And whenever they come out, they're probably the biggest irritation aside from the cops. I think they're probably worse than the cops when there's multiple of them. So yeah, I'm down to my last life at this point. You see this level got pretty sloppy. I was debating whether I should do my tutorial on the 1cc Mania run or this Mania Plus run, which was done obviously stage by stage, since you can continue infinitely in the story mode. But the reason I went with Mania Plus is because it was so much wilder. Even though my playing was much cleaner, my playing was way cleaner on the Mania run. I had an easy time with that overall. I think I beat that either my first or second time trying it. The 1cc Mania on arcade, but so that was a much cleaner run. It looked a lot tighter, the gameplay. Everything was being pulled off, much smoother. This run gets very messy at points. But I decided to do the tutorial on this since this is really the harder mode. And it was a lot harder overall than doing the Mania 1cc, which I found to be easy. With, what I already knew about the game. Watch out for that left side. Since it falls off. You can knock some enemies off. If they're standing on that platform, they'll die, but it's better to stay away from that side, I think. You see I deflected a weapon there and knocked that guy off the edge. So you have some grenades here that you can use. I think one grenade, but my life was getting low, so I used the special because I probably wouldn't have been able to grab the apple even with the special. I don't even know if I get it. See, I got killed anyway. I used the special and I still died because it's so hard to pick up health items and shit when there's tons of enemies. They're very aggressive and it's very hard when you want to pick up a health item when you need it. Many, many times I get killed even when the health item is very close to where I'm standing, because I'm accidentally going to grab an enemy and then get killed, or they're going to just hit me or shoot me or some shit. So sometimes I use the star special sometimes just to try to grab a healing item, which can be a useful use of the star move if you're successful in grabbing it. If not, you just wasted your star and you died as well. So a little bit of a risk there. I would say take care of the gun guys first, as they can cause more problems. The shield guys are usually, some of the easier enemies to deal with. So they shouldn't give you too much trouble. Just try to group them together and do a flying kick past them the first time and then come back around and flying kick them all from the back. And that, like I said, is usually enough to take their shield out. 2 flying kick combos. Alternatively, when there's not as many of them, you can just do a few regular punches and then follow up with a flying kick. And that will take out their shield usually in one little pass by. So there's still, a few hard enemies left. You got these flying kick women, which are always a pain in the ass. Try to group them together if you can. It's hard not to get damaged by some of them. But if you can get that combo going with the flying kick, it's always good. Watch out for the electricity where they place when you break the chairs, there's an electric little pothole or whatever. And when you try to grab it's kind of cheap when you try to grab the items in there. You'll get electrocuted if you're not paying attention to that. So if you see electricity moving around in there, don't pick it up. I didn't realize how I was getting electrocuted initially, but then I saw. So get this turkey when you need it. And you probably will at some point. Also make sure you come up around this upper area and don't scroll the screen yet. And you want to go up here and not scroll the screen like that because, well, maybe, let me see, I may have been able to grab the star. No, I don't know if I could. I think I may end up not being able to grab the star, which is really a waste. But let's see. Oh, no, I was able to get it. I guess you can still get it. Just be aware that there's a star that spawns in that area, which is extremely useful to get, especially if you end up having trouble with the boss that's coming up soon. I mean, that can make a huge difference, especially if you're using Spirit Dance as your star move. That's a great star move. Does a lot of damage, and it really clears the screen when there's a lot of enemies. So this boss is very, very fucking easy. So if you get here, you should be good. There's also some healing items in those boxes if you need them. Now, you may take some hits, but you see it does very small damage if you get shot. So it's not really a big threat. The Sentinel shoots out a rocket, I believe. That's probably the most damaging thing that the enemy can do. But it mostly just runs around and laughs at you. So you can get this enemy into some decent combos. So it's pretty fucking easy. You can do some aerial combos. Just keep using your blitz. Do some regular strikes. Even when it does a special move, you can just charge a blitz kick as it's firing the rocket. And if you're really close, you won't even get hit by the rocket, and you'll damage this character even while not like that, obviously, but. It should be very easy. Even the final boss of the game is really pretty fucking easy. Especially for a mode like this. So, the final stage is very hard, though. That's a tough stage. It probably took me over an hour to beat. I had a lot of trouble with that. So yeah, whenever these grenades rain down, obviously, don't be around them. I wouldn't try to kick them back at the enemy. It's not really worth the small amount of damage they may do. I used my star move there, and as the enemy's getting knocked around, I did some little aerial combos to get a little extra chip damage. But all that is really not too necessary. Especially if you have a few lives to spare, you can just kind of brute force your way through this boss. You're not probably going to take a ton of damage on this boss, even though this boss is tricky because the boss moves around a lot and tries to evade everything. So it's a little tricky. I find the sword women to be the most annoying. I think it's Mrs. Y or some shit. Because they'll constantly stab you and do these dashes across the screen. They can be annoying to deal with. Especially when you're dealing with like 3 or 4 of them in survival mode at the same time with other enemies moving around. Luckily, that doesn't happen in story mode. So here, a big tip is to try to start this part off with a very big combo that takes out both waves of enemies. Now, I don't think I pulled it off here, but I have done it before. If you can keep the combo going through all these waves of enemies, you'll get your first one up very early on. Right after those 2 waves complete, you'll get your one up. Because the combo will be big enough to get you the one up. See, now this is the second wave. If you can chain the combo into the second wave and keep it going, usually I get stabbed or I get hit by one of these assholes. So it usually breaks my combo. So I didn't get it here, but it is something to try for. If you want to get your first one up early on, it can help a lot. Because otherwise it can take a while to get your first one up. It's hard to get a good combo going in this next area. It's very hard to do. Because these charging women are extremely aggressive. So this is where I recommend using your first star move of the stage. I always use it here. I have a very specific way that I pace this, as this is the final stage of the game. I have a very specific way that I pace this stage. So if you want to beat it the way I did, I recommend doing what I did, which is using a star right here when these women first appear. Make sure you have a lot of them on screen before using it, though, obviously. You want to get maximum damage. Once that's done, I use my flying kicks and just try to take out as many of them as I can. I try to group them together and just demolish them as much as possible. And early on, I have only maybe 1 or 2 of them remaining. And it makes it easy for me to then finish off this area, which is one of the more annoying areas in the game. Probably the hardest area in the game, possibly. Either this or the next area, I would say, is probably the hardest single area in the game. So this is up there. But because I paced it as I did, it made it an area that's not too hard to beat. And you even get an extra star in one of the motorcycles here as well, so it's not a big deal to use your star there. So unless you want to deal with that really dangerous area where you get pile drived and rushed like a motherfucker, it's extremely fucking annoying to say the least. It almost feels cheap, but I would recommend using the star there. This part is very easy. Just focus on the gun guys initially, take them out, and then you can deal with these regular Joe Higashi clones as you normally would. This is a very easy area, but this next area is one of the hardest in the game as well. It rivals the last area. Maybe it's probably even harder. So I would say follow where I use the star and what I do here. Now knock down that chandelier when you see the enemies coming within range. Those two, I think, Donovans with pipes. Punch the chain and knock down the chandelier right on top of them. You'll take them out instantly. Now don't advance the screen all the way to the right. You see me staying on the left side of the screen. That's for a reason. I don't want to aggravate the other enemies and have them come out. So I take out those 2 guys first. Now I move over to the right. Now we're going to get tons and tons of fucking enemies. And this is the part that is one of the hardest. Now you see I use my star again right here when all these knife guys come out. Highly recommend using it again at that point. You'll see I pace this stage in a very specific way to stay alive. So now I'm using my flying kicks. I'm trying to save the turkeys, but it can be very hard to get to the turkey when I do actually want it. Luckily I was able to get to it. So you just kind of keep it going, keep these flying kicks going in, try to line the guys up near the top of the screen and try to just get them all bunched together. The top is usually a good area to line guys up for the flying kick combos because either the top of the screen or the very bottom, the extreme bottom, are good because it forces all the enemies into a straight line because they're all going to try to come up or come down to where you're at. And they're going to all be lined up in like a nice little clean line eventually. And that's a good way to line up tons of guys for the flying kick blitz combos where you can really spam it. So maybe get the apple if you need it by this point. It's in one of the candles. When you get thrown, you can try to stand up, as I said, if you time the A right, button A or up in A, something like that. See, I did it there. But these guys are very irritating on this stage because they become super fast by this point in the game, and they'll slide and throw you like a motherfucker. So, it can be very irritating. Even if there's just one of them with little health, it can be dangerous. So now I earned my first, or my second one up. So I'm in decent shape. But now we got 2 of these guys again, which we dealt with before. It's the same fight. Except now there's not a wrecking ball or anything in the arena. Which can either be good or bad, depending how good you are at avoiding the wrecking ball. But I think it's easier without the wrecking ball. So now you have some Donovans showing up. And they're very irritating enemies. Of course, with dealing with the cyborgs as well. So this is a dangerous area. You may lose another life here, which is okay. I mean, I lost a life here. I was able to still beat the stage. So remember, this is one of the hardest areas in the game and in this stage. So, I mean, it's okay if you lose maybe a life or 2 here in this section. But hopefully you paced your stars in a way where you were able to, survive. For me, that the way I use the stars in those areas helps me to get to where I got in the level and eventually beat it. So I found it useful. But now we're going to have a lot of enemies left. So make sure you grab that turkey. And these enemies are just going to throw shit at you, but they move very fast. So just try to take them out as fast as possible with the flying kick and a few regular punches if needed. Just try to eliminate them like as fast as you can. Always be ready to move either up or down when one of them is lined up with you because otherwise you will get hit. You can use flying kick to dodge the stars and push towards them as you see me doing. since it has those invincibility frames. It's a very easy way to deal with them. I don't think I got hit. Now I did, though, of course. Now a ton of them come out. But as long as you keep moving up and down, it kind of throws them off, and because they're going to stand in one area for a while and just spam the shit. So now you got tons of waves of these fucking fats. So this is one of the harder, waves of enemies to deal with, as far as, just waves of irritating enemies, because they're constantly rolling and breathing fire. So my best tip is to just try to group them together as much as you possibly can and just use those flying kicks spam. Again, as I've been mostly saying throughout the game, just try to keep that going. Because while you're in the air and while you're doing a flying kick, you have so many invincibility frames that it really lowers your chance of taking damage, even if you're not actively trying to dodge them. If you stand there and punch them, they'll often roll through that and just hit you anyway. So you can use some aerial combos on them as well, works decently, but mainly you're going to want to use flying kick blitz, I think. There's a lot of waves of these enemies at the end. It's an excessive amount of them. See, there's even more still coming out. I think these ones have more health than the red ones. But at least there's only 3 of them at this point. So it's not too bad to deal with, but they can still easily kill you. I think there may even be another wave after this, but I'm not sure. I know that it goes on for quite a bit. Whenever you can get all 3 of them lined up, that's like the perfect scenario. See, now you have more of them coming out, another 3. I think this is the last wave. And again, it's the same shit. It's just that they just take a while because they have a lot of health, and they don't always cooperate with you as far as all grouping together. It can be hard to group all 3 of them together. But if you can do that, that's the ultimate, because you can combo the shit out of them if you can get them lined up. You see how dangerous they are. I lost a life here when I probably could have still got some health and recovered all my health for that life. But now I'm on my final life, unfortunately. But it's still survivable, as you'll see. Now here there's no more enemies, but there's a bunch of pickups. There's one more enemy that appears right when you're about to leave. Extremely easy enemy. A single ninja type of enemy. Which, as long as you know he's coming, you shouldn't get hit by him at all. And hopefully you'll be on the verge of getting another one up soon on points. But even if not, this is, like I said, these bosses, they're really quite easy. I mean, it's not the easiest boss, but this is one of the more annoying of the bosses to deal with, but they're really not that hard as far as losing a lot of life. As long as you keep up, you can get them in a corner. Like this boss, you can a lot of times get in a corner and get a lot of flying kicks and see these kind of combos like this. Just try to get her in a corner and just keep it going. You can do a nice amount of damage with that. Now, if you have the defensive special where he waves his arms out that I mentioned, you can juggle her by getting her in the air and then using a flying kick to keep it going, and go back to the defensive special again, use the flying kick, and just keep repeating that. But it's going to use a lot of your health because, using your defensive special still burns your health. So yeah, get the apple there if you need it. It's hidden in one of the statues, but it comes with an enemy. Both of those statues have enemies in them. They're easy enemies, but they can cause a little bit of a problem if you don't take them out right away, since you're trying to focus on the boss. So take them out, probably take them out first before you try to focus on the boss. If you need another healing item, you can break the other statue. And again, you'll have another enemy that comes out, but it's really easy. So you get a full turkey in there, so it's worth it. Now here I'm on my last life, so I'm basically just going to be surviving off of, points. And the fact that the last bosses aren't too hard at all. But yeah, the way I paced that level is really a big part of beating it. So I would recommend using the stars where I did, and, trying to play it in a similar way. Because this is definitely the hardest stage in the game. But like you see, you can get the damage going for a while. I mean, she will get out of it occasionally, unless you're juggling her. I think you can get an infinite juggle on her, but again, you're gonna be draining a lot of your health by using those specials. There's probably another more advanced way to juggle her or get an infinite combo without using a special, but, you know, I'm not that advanced at the game. So yeah, once she's mostly dead, she will leave. And now you're going to go on to the final bosses of the game, which are really quite easy. You don't really need to even lose a life here. If you need a healing item, grab it here. Now, the reason I walked past the healing item was because if you scroll the screen too much, you will automatically walk past the healing item, which is a little dangerous. You can also grab a star here and another turkey. So if you got this far, you should be in good shape, especially if you earn your 1-up on points here. See, now I have 2 lives left. So just target one of them. Just choose one. And if you can group them together, it's even better because the damage will carry over. But the idea is that once you get one down, once you kill one of them, you only have one left. And what will happen is one of them will go into this large machine, basically. It kind of leaves the arena and goes inside of a machine that will attack you. So here I lost a life, so now I'm on my last life. But it's pretty effective if you try just to, target one of them and get their health down, because it'll trigger the next area where, it's easier when one of them goes inside the machine. It's harder to deal with 2 of them running around than it is. The machine is really easy to dodge for the most part. So I would say it's worth trying to, take one of them out first. So once you get one of their healths down to, a certain amount, they'll retreat into the machine. And I find this is where the fight becomes the easiest to deal with. Because you can mostly just focus on the machine, which the machine takes tons of damage from your flying kick. So it doesn't take too long to take the machine out. Depending when you kill, or not really kill, but take the health down of this other boss, Mrs. Y, if you take her health down sooner, she will also get into the machine. And then you will have to finish her off while she's in the machine. But either way, it's very easy. It's, as I said, easier to deal with them when they're in the machine. Because all you have to do is just kind of wait for their little machine arm to be on the ground and just spam it with flying kicks. And then just move out of the way, basically. As long as you're spamming flying kicks, it's pretty easy not to get hit. And you just wait for your opportunity for the leg to be on the ground again. Really very easy. So now all you got to do is finish her off. I think she may retreat into the machine if she gets a chance. And that makes her even easier, so you may even want to let her do that, just so you can finish her off easier. But yeah, that's it. So, if you've done